A controversial new initiative by some schools across the country have many students and parents up in arms. Letters being sent home to parents noting whether their child is overweight. Some call them fat letters. Schools in 19 states starting to conduct annual weigh-ins for students and that test the body mass index, or BMI. So Mimi Roth is the founder and president of the National Action Against Obesity. She's going to debate Dr. Jeffrey Gardier, a clinical psychologist. Great to have both of you guys here to talk about this.
Thank you.
19 states across the country this September are considering sending these letters home. Students, as we say, call them fat letters. But maybe a lot of parents bristle at the idea that their kids are being weighed at school and then being sent home with these letters. Is this the school's business?
It's data. Don't be mad at the data. Be mad at how we're feeding America's kids. You know, we can't hide from information, and schools have a stake in how kids are eating. Eat better, you perform better in school, you behave better in school. And actually, it's about keeping children safe. And studies show that parents oftentimes fail to see the degree of their child's weight problem. So sending this information home is actually helpful to parents.
Is this an eye-opener, as Mimi's saying, for parents where they may not know that their kids are classified as obese?
Well, they may not know that their BMI may be too much for their kids, but they do know that their kids are having some issues with weight, and they are working on those issues within their families, perhaps not doing a really great job at it because it is something that brings about a lot of conflict, either eating too much or not eating enough. And so I do believe that the schools are well-meaning with this, and it is data, but I think when you have conflicts around weight issues, whether too much weight, too little weight, anorexia, obesity, these are things that need to be handled by a family physician and with the family. So I would like to see the school, Mimi, really work with getting kids to see their pediatricians and then advising the kids in a private manner.
Dr. Gardier brings up a great point, which is the threat of eating disorders. So many adolescent kids wrestle with eating disorders. Couldn't this, being weighed at school, having kids know whether or not you're getting a letter, I mean, isn't this cause for concern, particularly with adolescent girls?
But Allison, don't forget that being overweight and obese is actually an eating disorder as well, and it's the eating disorder that's affecting most Americans. Diabetes, cancer, all of these health risks come with overeating, and trying to address this earlier in a person's life is actually vital. So again, this is information, and just by not saying it out loud doesn't make the problem go away. They're sharing information. It's just a preliminary screening, and I think that we're trying to, you know, if people were feeding their children healthfully, this would be a non-issue. So I think that the F isn't for fat letter. The F is the score parents are getting for failing their children and making sure that they're maintaining healthy weights.
But getting a fat letter home, does that mean that the parents are going to change their ways?
I think in some ways parents may certainly be more oppositional to that sort of thing, because as you feel, is this really your business to get involved in? I think the schools perhaps should look at, hey, look, let's put exercise programs out there. Let's have education as far as what healthy eating is, or not having enough food in your system and causing that kind of an eating disorder.
How about just education instead of these letters, which are really, some argue, a stigma for the kid, a fat letter coming home? Why not?
It isn't. Children should be concerned if they're overweight, and it's a shame that we put them in that position. When children look at adults, they mostly see in this country overweight and unhealthy adults. So we're creating the stigma by creating an environment where we adults are not setting a good example, and children are fearful of growing up like most American adults. And again, this is information, and the school sends home grades for schoolwork. They send home reports if you have a scoliosis screening. They send home hearing and eyesight screenings. This is just more information. Parents don't want to be told the truth, and that's what the problem is.
But the problem is when you're sending that information on, you're not sending the counseling that goes with it.
Well, wait, how do we know that? How do we know that?
You don't have anyone from the school, Mimi, who's sitting down with these parents and saying, look, your child may have some sort of an eating disorder. Maybe something's going on as far as the dynamics in your home.
But the letters do suggest they speak with their pediatrician or family doctor.
They do. They suggest they speak with a pediatrician.
Which is what you wanted them to do.
However, the letter in a vacuum, I think, is Dr. Gardier's point. The letter in a vacuum classifying your child doesn't really help. Chances are, if you've looked at your child, you probably know that they're overweight.
But you don't, Allison. The studies show again and again that we've got these blinders on. What we used to think was normal, we now we think chubby is normal. We think obese is chubby. Like, we've lost our minds with being able to see what the reality of what obesity looks like. children shouldn't have fat bellies. A normal child looks pretty darn skinny. Remember the 70s, or am I older than both of you? Kids were skinny. People were skinny. And we've lost sight of that. And this is an initial screening. It's an initial screening. It's just a red flag that says, look at it.
Well, our impressions have changed, but I think the bottom line here is we shouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Oh, wait, no one's doing that. No one's doing that.
And I'm not suggesting that. The data is good. We should have that. But I think what we need to look at is a different approach as far as getting to these families, because more than anything, you're just going to shut them down because there are the dynamics that are causing the overeating or the undereating.
But how about this? Sorry.
It's a great debate. I invite all of your comments on Twitter. You can find me at Allison Camerata. Dr. Gardier, Mimi Roth, thanks so much.
Mimi, we'll discuss this over lunch.
That's right.
Get a bagel. Thanks so much.